It's a verb.
Okay. So the last thing we did was on 242. But we're going to skip forward to 244, where again the stick sharpened at both ends is mentioned, and now he saw that the stick was sharpened at both ends. 44. 244. This is again the pinnacle of this symbol, you know. Finally, he finds out that he has the spear made for killing, the cruel, evil, bad spear. Not good, yes. No, it's a symbol. Next is on page 246, and it is again a symbol, a huge peaked cap. It was white-topped cap, and above the green shade of the peak was a crown and anchor gold foliage. This is the first thing that Ralph sees of the rescuer, and and so it symbolizes freedom, safety, and civilized society, and how it's clean. And the fact that the cap was white adds to that because it's not dirty like all their clothes are. It's fresh, brand new, and it's also the cap is a sailor's cap, which is a very civilized part of society, etc. And now that next one is yours on 247.
The next one is the next annotation is a leadership theme or symbol or what have you, and it's right at the bottom of the page, the last two lines on 247, and it's when the group of boys, they're asked who the boss is, and even though Ralph became like an outcast ages ago, he says he is, and then the little boy, I think it continues over to the next page. Yeah, when the little boy tries to challenge that, when he's like, hang on, no, you're not the boss, except then he remembers that he's a little boy and Ralph is a lot stronger than him, and he decides not to interfere with that. So, thanks, Serif. It starts at 247, right at the bottom, a leadership theme, I think. And it continues for the first three lines of 248. And then we've got a ton of annotations for the last paragraph.
No, there's this.
Oh, boom. Is that mine?
Yeah, it's yours.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is a Britishness symbol or theme, or it starts at I should have thought. And it continues for that entire paragraph. And it's the officer, he's surprised that the boys have descended into this savagery and haven't been able to keep up some sort of civilized manner. So it's Britishness and savagery.
The last one the last annotation we have is on still the last page, and it's the tears began to flow and sobs shook him. Here. And it's in the very last paragraph, and it shows that in the end they're all kids, and they're all little boys, and it's them returning to innocence and vulnerability, and it's like the spell of everything that happened in the book when they were on the island. It's like the spell of that broke. Ralph looked at him dumbly. For a moment he had a fleeting picture of the strange glamour that had once invested the beaches. But the island was scorching up like dead wood. Simon was dead, and Jack had... The tears began to flow and sobs shook him. He gave himself up to them now for the first time on the island. Great shuddering spasms of grief that seemed to wrench his whole body. His voice rose under the black smoke from the burning wreckage of the island, and infected by that emotion, the other little boys began to shake and sob too. And in the middle of them, with filthy body, matted hair, and unwiped nose, Ralph wept for the end of innocence, the darkness of man's heart, the fall through the air of the true wise friend called Piggy. The officer, surrounded by these noises, was moved and a little embarrassed. He turned away to give them time to pull themselves together, and waited, allowing his eyes to rest on the trim cruiser of the distance. So the summary I have is here. In Chapter 12, Cry of the Hunters, William Golding is showing the reader that anyone removed from society would turn extremely violent and wouldn't stop unless order and civilized society stepped in again. Or basically, the only thing keeping society from absolute chaos is the system of law and order we have. This is likely due to Golding's experience in World War II. To communicate this opinion, Golding focuses on making the boys as violent and cruel as possible until a figure of civilized society enters the isolated world. Even though it was nearly 10 years after World War II that the book was written, for Golding, the war never ended, influencing the whole book and this chapter.